Hey everyone, I'm Mike from theparkprodigy.com, and on today's video we are going to rank all of the EPCOT rides. Now, we decided to start really with the hardest. We're going to be ranking all of the Disney parks and kind of breaking down the rides, but I feel like EPCOT, out of all of the Walt Disney World parks, does kind of have that reputation as not having as much for young kids to do. But as you'll see, there are still plenty of rides. Specifically, I was pleasantly surprised with just how many rides don't have height requirements over in this park. So if you are in the process of planning a Walt Disney World trip, just be sure to stick around until the end of this video, as we are going to break down everything you need to know about the EPCOT rides. As always, I'm very excited, so let's go get started. Thank you again so much for checking out this video. Like I said, we are about to break down all of the rides at EPCOT, and we're also going to give you the minimum height requirements and our little thrill scale factor, just so you know kind of what you're getting yourself into. What I would say is, with the thrill scale factor for the rides in Disney World compared to Universal Orlando, I would say they're not going to be apples to apples. A 7 in Disney World is really, we're comparing it to all the other Disney World rides. It's going to be different from, let's say, when we continue to do these videos, a 7 over in Universal Orlando, just because Universal Orlando typically will have, more thrilling rides, right? So just keep that in mind as we break this stuff down. And of course, we're going to have a lot of fun with this video. In certain situations, I think we included the Beauty and the Beast sing-along, but I don't think we included any of the shows, from around World Showcase. So, I wouldn't say that World Showcase, the shows are rides. I also wouldn't say the Beauty and the Beast sing-along is a ride. Maybe we'll throw Moana in there too, but there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to a Disney vacation. I don't have to tell you all at home. If you're planning a Walt Disney World vacation, your head is probably spinning. And if you do need more additional videos just to kind of help alleviate that stress, just be sure to hit that subscribe button, as we do have a lot more similar content coming out in the coming weeks to get you as prepared as possible for your next Disney trip. But let's jump right in, and we're going to start ranking the rides. And I have to give a huge shout out to the team over at the Park Prodigy, to my team, for help putting together all of these videos over the past couple months and the years that we've been working together. But they're really coming out swinging with this ride list, and we've all voted on essentially the ranking the rides. And in at the worst ride in EPCOT is going to be Journey into Imagination with Figment. And I think that maybe we're taking it a little too hard on my boy Figment and putting this ride last. That's just my honest opinion, but I also have a lot of memories of visiting this ride with my friends, during our times visiting the parks. So maybe I just have the nostalgia aspect, but it is in the worst ride. But the cool thing about Journey into Imagination with Figment is there is no height requirement. And then from a thrill scale factor, it is going to be a 2 out of 10. So not thrilling. We probably could have put this ride as a 1 out of 10, but realistically, I think just when you get on this ride, you'll realize, like, hey, it's a little out there, and maybe that's why we put it as a 2 out of 10. So this is a slow, dark ride featuring Figment, a mischievous purple dragon exploring the realms of imagination. Well, some might think that it lacks charms, let's say, of some of the other rides in EPCOT that, are also kind of fan favorites. So that's where we're starting. I'm going to leave it at that. Moving over to the next ride, and I do think this makes a lot of sense, from a ranking standpoint, but we do have Mission Space. So one of the things that guests have to be aware of this ride, it is kind of like it simulates going into space. Now, from a motion sickness standpoint, you do have to be mindful that you can get extremely nauseous going on this ride. And I mentioned that even before we talk about, minimum height requirements or thrill factors, just because I have been with guests, my own family vacations, and it has completely ruined their day. Once they got off this ride, everything, stuff was moving, they didn't feel right. So it can have that effect on guests. So just understand that going in. And I would say it's the same thing. Disney breaks it down based on orange or green. Green is supposed to be less thrilling. If you get motion sickness, I would not touch this ride, just my honest opinion. But from a height requirement standpoint, we do have orange coming in at 44 inches tall. That's the minimum height requirement. Green is going to be minimum height requirement of 40 inches tall. And for the reasons I just spoke about, from a thrill factor, we are giving this a 7 out of 10. Is it going to be a fast moving ride like roller coaster from a thrill factor? No, it's not. This is more just essentially what this is it's an intense simulator ride that simulates a space mission to Mars. Like I said, it offers 2 versions. right, which is the more intense orange mission and the less intense green mission. And like we said, some guests find it thrilling while others may experience motion sickness. Okay, so moving over to the next one, and this is again not a ride, but this is something that I really enjoy when I'm in Epcot. I think this is a great thing for families who are visiting with young kids to do and go experience, and that's why we made sure to include it on this list, and that is the Beauty and the Beast sing-along. So this is located in the France Pavilion of Epcot. The Beauty and the Beast sing-along is a film presentation that adds a new twist onto the classic tale as old as time. And the cool thing about this is, as you can imagine, there's no height requirement for a sing-along. From a thrill rating factor, it is a 1 out of 10, but you will leave this quote-unquote ride/show extremely happy and just kind of like in the Disney spirit, and I think that's what a Disney vacation is all about. Okay, over to the next one, and again, I think this is a ride that is way too low on this list, but as we're going through these, you'll see Epcot really has so many like fan favorites, and so much. I think because I spent so much time in this park, there's just so much nostalgia for me personally. But we have Grand Fiesta Tour starring the Three Caballeros. Now this is a boat ride located in Mexico's pavilion, featuring Donald Duck and his friends as they explore Mexico with a mix of animatronics and projections. It's a lighthearted and colorful ride. Great thing about this ride is it does have no minimum height requirement. From a thrill rating factor, it is going to be a 1 out of 10. Overall, just the vibes on this ride are just immaculate, right? It's nothing crazy, but especially when you're walking around and you're walking around the World Showcase, great way to get out of the hot Florida sun. But of course, it brings up the debate: do you start in Mexico? Do you start in Canada? Maybe if you're starting in Mexico, you don't need a break just yet, but that's up to you guys to decide. Okay, over to the next one, and again, this is more so really a show, not so much a ride, but we do have Turtle Talk with Crush. Now, this is located in Epcot's The Seas with Nemo and Friends Pavilion. Turtle Talk with Crush is an interactive, real-time animated show featuring the character Crush from the Finding Nemo movies. Now, one of the things that I love about this show is it really is, if you've been to Magic Kingdom and if you're familiar with Disney, but you just maybe haven't been to Epcot, it's very similar to the Monsters Inc. laugh floor, where there actually is a cast member who's interacting with guests, as Crush, right? And I think because of that, every show is different because it's more so kind of like, it's a stand-up comedy. It's an interactive show, but every show is different, like I said. So, of course, it's just really, really cool and something that you can go back and experience over and over and over because it's going to be different every time. Same thing, of course, just like you'd imagine with a show, it does not have a minimum height requirement, which is great for families visiting with young kids. And then on a thrill rating factor, we are in at a 1 out of 10. Okay, moving over to the next one and kind of staying on brand, we do have The Seas with Nemo and Friends. Now, this is located in a future world. This attraction is a combination of a dark ride and real aquarium experience. Guests board clam mobiles and embark on a journey with characters from Pixar's Finding Nemo. The ride takes you through scenes with animated characters, which are really superimposed onto a real aquarium, creating a seamless blend of animation and reality. After the ride, visitors can explore the Seas Pavilion, which houses one of the largest saltwater aquariums in the world, providing an opportunity to see marine life such as sea turtles, dolphins, and stingrays. Now, the pavilion also offers an interactive exhibition and educational displays on ocean conservation. Now, another really important thing is there is no height requirement for The Seas with Nemo and Friends. There is a thrill scale factor of 1 out of 10. I will say the queue for this ride is ridiculously long for no reason. Almost every time I go to Epcot, there's no really line for this ride. The queue, it will take you longer to walk through this queue than it will to get onto the ride. But I think everything about this ride, just again, they're playing the music from the movies, it's a very low-key ride that I think I personally really, really enjoy going on to break my day up, and I do think families will enjoy it as well. Okay, over to a very popular ride, and that is going to be Living with the Land. I think the thing about Living with the Land is very similar to our boy Figment, is you either love this ride or you hate it. I don't know if there's an in-between. This is a boat ride through a greenhouse showcasing sustainable and innovative agricultural techniques. It's an educational and relaxing ride offering a glimpse into Disney's commitment to environmental awareness. And some of the things that guests really enjoy about this ride is a lot of the food that you'll actually see being grown in Living with the Land is served in the restaurants in Walt Disney World. So that's a really, really cool fact. And then, of course, there is no minimum height requirement for this ride, so it's another great ride for families visiting with young kids. Kids might not really love it because of the educational aspect to it, but adults kind of, especially I think as you get older, nostalgia comes into play. Adults really do love this ride. The other cool thing about this ride is if you are visiting during, let's say, Christmas, there is a holiday overlay, which is really, really popular. So you can enjoy Living with the Land that has Christmas lights and stuff like that. And from a thrill rating factor, we would give this a 1 out of 10. Now we are jumping into the heavy hitters when it comes to Epcot. And next on the list, we do have Soarin' Around the World. Now, this is a simulated hand glider ride that takes guests on a virtual journey around the world. It's known for its immersive experience, utilizing a large curved screen and sense to enhance the sensation of flying. This is one of my favorites. From a minimum height requirement standpoint, it is going to be 40 inches tall. And then from a thrill rating factor, we're in at a 5 out of 10. And this is really more so just because this ride does lift you off the ground. So you do have to keep that in mind, especially if you are a little afraid of heights. Moving over to the next one, and we do have a very, very popular ride, and that is going to be Frozen Ever After. So this is a boat ride that replaced Maelstrom, featuring the Disney characters from Disney's Frozen. Now, this is located in the Norway Pavilion of Epcot, and it takes guests through the scenes inspired by the animated film. And also, the other cool thing about this ride, and the reason why it's a fan favorite, is it does have a lot of the songs from the movies and the original soundtrack of Frozen. So families really, really enjoy that. So there is no minimum height requirement for this ride, and we would say from a thrill rating standpoint, we're going to be in at a 3 out of 10. And that's really just because of the fact that there is a little bit of a drop with the boat ride, not a huge drop. It's like a Pirates of the Caribbean type of drop, but that's the reason why we do have a 3 out of 10. Over to the next one, and this is another very, very new ride in Epcot, and that is going to be Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. And this is based on Disney's Pixar's Ratatouille. This ride takes guests on a 3D dark ride adventure through the sights, sounds, and smells of Gaston's restaurant in Paris. Guests shrink down to the size of Remy, the rat chef, and scurry through the kitchen and dining areas while avoiding obstacles. This ride uses a trackless ride technology, making each experience slightly different. And I think they did such a really, really great job just with the brand new, French Pavilion back there. And I think Remy's Ratatouille Adventure is the perfect addition to this area of the park. And the other cool thing too, of course, from a minimum height requirement, there is no minimum height requirement to get onto Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. And we would say from a thrill rating standpoint, just because you are really moving through this ride, like that seamless track is moving you through different scenes from the movies, I would give this a thrill rating factor of 3 out of 10. All right, over to the next ride on the list, and we do have another classic that's been in the park for such a very, very long time, and we have Test Track. This is a high-speed futuristic ride where guests design their own virtual car before experiencing a test drive. It's known for its exhilarating speed and outdoor portion, and I don't have to tell you, if you've been at Epcot and if you're familiar with this ride, you could pretty much hear, in your mind, the car is racing around, that track. So this has a minimum height requirement of 40 inches tall, and we would say from a thrill rating standpoint, just because you are going, up at speeds higher than 60 miles an hour, we would give this a thrill rating factor of a 6 out of 10. And again, just a very, very popular, cool ride. Okay, over to the next one, and this is a classic, and I think when you think of Epcot, you can't think of Epcot and not even knowingly, you're most likely thinking of this ride, and that is Spaceship Earth. So this is a slow-moving ride inside the iconic Epcot Bowl, quote-unquote, exploring the history of communication and technology. It's a classic Epcot attraction with a recent refurbishment as of our last update. From a minimum height requirement standpoint, there is going to be no minimum height requirement for Spaceship Earth. From a thrill rating standpoint, I would give this, thrill rating factor of 1 out of 10. Not going to be that crazy, but again, just a very, very iconic ride over in Epcot. And in at number 1, if you've been to Epcot, this probably comes as no surprise, but the best ride in Disney's Epcot is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Now, this is, again, one of the newest attractions in this park, and this ride incorporates a groundbreaking ride system with a spinning coaster that can rotate 360 degrees, allowing guests to face different directions during the experience. The storyline involves an adventure with the Guardians as they try to escape from an unusual cosmic event. And of course, an added bonus, and one of the things that so many people love about this ride, is you get to ride along to music just like the Guardians of the Galaxy do. They do have some classic, rock and roll songs that are essentially picked, for your ride. And the other cool thing that guests love about this ride is that every ride is different in that sense. You don't know which song selection you're going to get until the ride starts, which is something that I think is really, really cool. From a minimum height requirement standpoint, we do have a minimum height requirement of 42 inches tall to get onto Guardians of the Galaxy. And then from a thrill rating standpoint, we would give this ride a 7 out of 10. And again, the 7 out of 10 is not comparable to a Universal 7 out of 10. And the way that I'll typically explain this to guests that we're helping plan Disney vacations is I don't think you will get off this ride and not be smiling. I think you will get, by the end of this ride, you'll be like, what just happened? And essentially you'll get off this ride and you won't stop smiling. That's the best way I can explain it. And I think that's a very, very accurate representation of how cool this ride is. But that is the list, everyone. Those are the worst to the best EPCOT rides. I do have to give a additional shout out to Moana. The Moana attraction is a walkthrough attraction. It is brand new, so definitely go and check that out if you are in the process of planning a Disney trip and you're visiting EPCOT. And of course, if you do need a little additional help, just be sure to go check out our website as well, theparkprodigy.com. And as a thank you for sticking around all the way till the end of this video, I actually do have a special promo code that you can go and use on some discounted Disney World tickets. You can use it on also a discounted Disney vacation package, and that promo code is going to be YouTube25. But I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you again so much for checking out this video, and until next time, I will talk to you soon.